Hey, you're listening to Innovators Can Laugh, the fun startup podcast. I'm your host, Eric Melcher. On ICL, we interview an innovative entrepreneur in the European tech startup scene every week. My goal is to have my guests share their wisdom while having a little fun in the process. Now let's dive in. Hello, beautiful people. How are y'all doing? This is Eric Melcher, and thank you so much for taking the time to join me out of your very busy day as I get to talk to some of the most innovative and inspiring entrepreneurs in the tech scene here in Europe. Now, I'm going to introduce you to Pushkar, but before I do that, I don't want you to miss a single episode of the show. So whatever platform you're on right now, if you haven't already, just reach out and give that subscribe button a push. That way you're notified every time there is a new episode. Anyway, my friends, I'm really excited about this. I'd like to introduce you to Pushkar Chatterji, co-founder of Aiva, a startup that uses artificial intelligence to analyze video streams from CCTV systems, which are a network of cameras with a central recording hub, thus extracting valuable insights about consumer behavior for businesses in retail and commercial. In this episode, Pushkar is going to share with us how he got started, and if you want to get started with AI, some of the steps that you can do to incorporate AI into your business. Pushkar, welcome to Innovators Can Laugh.
Hey, Eric. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you're from India, but you lived in Sweden for a number of years, and now you are in Cluj. How did you arrive in Romania, Pushkar?
That's an interesting story, but it was because of an Excel file, and I kid you not, right? The company that I was working for at that time asked me to sort of establish operations in Europe. And we were looking at, countries like Poland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania. And we sort of, did an internet-based research, and we ranked different cities in these companies, in these countries, based on, the universities, the number of students in the university, the languages available, and, obviously the cost of living and so on and so forth. And, Cluj sort of, overall, ranked number one. And we said, okay, let's go to Cluj.
Now, why did it rank number one? What was so special about Cluj?
Well, it's interesting. And, just keep in mind that, this, we ran this Excel file back in 2007. And even though, there were at that point of time, Bulgaria from a cost of living point of view was far more attractive than Romania. Cluj was very interesting because it had, it was university town, right? So, the number of students available was huge as a percentage of population. Second, and very interestingly, is that from a geographical point of view, the languages that we got access to in Cluj were incredibly varied. So you had all the Latin languages, like obviously Romanian, French, Spanish, Italian, but you also had German.
Okay.
You had Russian, and that was a very, very interesting sort of unique combination that Cluj stood out from the rest of the list that we had at that time.
All right. So in 2007, is that when you made the move?
Well, no, in March 2008, I landed for the first time in Romania, in Cluj, with a little piece of paper with the hotel address and, the phone number of our lawyers who were going to help us incorporate the company.
Okay.
And that was my first experience in Cluj. And, back then, the airport in Cluj was like really tiny. And of course, now we've got like, an international airport with multiple runways, and, it's a fantastic terminal building. But back then it was like a small little building. And I landed at like, I think 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was my first experience of Cluj. Yeah.
Yeah. No, when I first came to Romania, to Bucharest about 14 years ago, I was surprised at how small the airport was myself. I mean, there was only like 3 baggage, terminals, or those things where the baggages come down. Like, and in Houston, where I came from, it was like the airport was like 20 times the size of the airport here, and I was amazed. Like, this is the capital of a country, and it's still much too small for what it should be, but it has gotten a little bit bigger. Okay, so you're in Romania. You've got this, you got the number 2 attorneys, and you're going to incorporate this business. So what were some of the most memorable things that happened to you the first year when you got here in Cluj, Pushkar?
Oh gosh. The traffic was a shocker for me in Cluj.
You're kidding.
I remember the first day. No, I honestly, and I'll tell you why. The first day I was here in Cluj. I picked up the phone and I called the lawyers and I said, "Hey, give me your address." And they asked me where I'm coming from. So I told them the hotel and they said, "Oh my gosh, you better leave early because, you'll find a lot of traffic." And it was like 9 in the morning. And, and I was thinking, and I was coming straight from New Delhi, right? Which is like one city with about 20 million people, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine the traffic. And when people say, traffic is going to be bad in Delhi, it is insanely bad. And suddenly I was hearing the same advice here in Cluj. And I was like, oh my God, how long do you think it's going to take me from my hotel to get to your place? And they said 15 minutes. and I'll have to sort of, recalibrate my measure of what bad traffic is, right? And I was like, okay, so that is bad traffic in Cluj. Okay. And remember, this is again, early 2008, right? So yeah, I mean, in the first year, there was a lot of recalibration that I had to do based on not just being in a different country with completely different regulations as far as, corporate practices are concerned, but also a very different culture. And that was a very sort of interesting learning experience for me. And I loved every minute of it because, every day there was something new happening. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know what you mean by the traffic. Here in Bucharest, there's a mall that's 1.5 kilometers away. But if you go during peak hours, traffic hours, it can take you more than 30 minutes to go 1.5 kilometers. And traffic here, thank goodness I don't drive during the week, because if I did, I wouldn't be living here anymore. I tell people there's probably only a few places in this world where the traffic is worse. Maybe in major cities in India, and then maybe in Cairo, right? But if you want to drive here in Bucharest, it's like the Hunger Games. You got to be prepared. Because there's
Bucharest traffic compared to what I'm used to is so mellow, honestly, because I remember, when I used to commute to work in my car in Delhi, and it used to take me about 90 minutes one way. I mean, and again, I remember, before the first time I actually visited Bucharest, we'd set up the team and I'd got a couple of colleagues in the office, and their advice to me is that, look, be super careful because people in Bucharest are, they drive like insane. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. It's going to be just like back home. And, and then I land in Bucharest and, everybody's sticking to their lanes and, and I'm like, what the hell were they talking about? Right? So it was a very different benchmark that I was sort of used to.
Yeah, I had a neighbor and he was from Cairo, and I was complaining about the traffic here. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's not that bad. It's actually quite nice.
Exactly.
Because Cairo, there's like 25 million people. And so it must be like what you're used to back home. Okay. So.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So you set up operations for this company that you're working for, but how did you come up with the idea of starting Aiva?
Well, so, so the company that I used to be working for, we were focused on research and analytics, and, mostly research and business research, and a little bit of analytics. And, as time went by, obviously, the role of analytics became more important for the clients of that company that I was working for. And so our analytics practice started to mature more and more. And, I moved to Sweden for about 2 years with the focus of trying to expand our footprint in the Nordics. And when I started speaking to clients in the Nordics, I sort of realized the massive potential that analytics has in decision making, right? And there's just so much data that was already out there, which is not being used in the decision making process, that I figured that, we need to sort of focus a lot more on analytics. And one thing led to another. And, I sort of quit the company that I was working for, started another company before Aiva, focused entirely on data analytics. And it was over there that, we started with traditional projects in data analytics, and one of the projects that we sort of got an opportunity to work on introduced me to artificial intelligence, or the approach of using artificial intelligence in solving data analytics problems. And then that just sort of exploded, right? I mean, the potential that I saw that AI, particularly neural networks, have in solving very difficult to define problems, I was like, this is the future. This is what we need to focus on.
Okay. Now there's a lot of marketers that are probably listening to this, like myself, or even entrepreneurs. And we actually use, maybe some things like AI, maybe, Chat GPT or some other tools out there that you utilize AI. But we ourselves don't know where to start or how to incorporate AI into maybe different functions of our business. And so what advice would you give somebody or a business or a brand that's thinking about, hey, where could AI be useful in my day-to-day operations? And then also, like, what would like the first place that you would recommend to go for guidance and education?
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting question. So, let me begin by sort of giving everybody a disclaimer that, despite all the media hype around AI, where it is right now, is not a magic solution for everything. It has the potential to be in the foreseeable future, but we are not there yet. As far as, how one can adopt AI in our business, what I would recommend is starting with processes which are either really monotonous or processes that require a huge amount of data to sort of ingest and understand and analyze. And that's where AI right now sort of really shines. So one of the examples that, we focus on here in Aiva is where clients invest like 100,000 euros in setting up a very complicated, dense CCTV network, right? For example, if you've got a hypermarket or if you've got a really large mall, you've got CCTV cameras inside there. But who's really using this information, right? You've got one little room in the corner of the building, which has got a wall full of monitors, and you've got a human being expected to look at all of those monitors at all times. But we guys are not built for that at all. Yeah. Right? I mean, we get distracted, we'll check our Facebook messages or WhatsApp or, things like that. And we're not looking at all the streams at all the times, right? And that's where an AI comes into the picture. Our AI, one of the things that our AIs can do is monitor all of these streams and capture events in real time as they happen without getting distracted, without going on vacation, without taking, a loo break, without checking Facebook and so on and so forth. And wherever the AI detects such an event of interest, what it can do is it can, bring the attention of the human to that event, and then the human can take a decision about what to do. And suddenly what is happening is that the AI is not replacing the human, but it is augmenting that human being's capability to be much more effective at their job than they were before.
Yeah, more efficient. This is fascinating. So from a retail perspective, like, what are some examples of that the AI can see, like, oh, this could be an issue. Let me notify, the person in charge here. Can you give us some examples?
Yeah. So, one interesting thing that, we are seeing a lot of traction with is, retail stores. So you walk into a store, you've got, rows of shelves stocked with products. And as a customer, if you want a certain product, you go to that section, you pick it up, and, you pay the retail store for that product. But what happens if you need something and the product is not there on the shelf, right? Because during the day, so you open the store and you make sure all your shelves are fully stocked. But during the day, you've got transactions and people coming and taking products off the shelf, right? So at some point, there are going to be times when certain products are not going to be anymore on the shelf, right? And that becomes a huge opportunity cost for our clients, because if as a customer, I come in and I want a can of cola and that cola is not there on the shelf, then I'm not going to be spending my money in that store to buy the cola. I'm going to go to another store which has the cola available, right? So it becomes essential for the retailers to make sure that that the shelves are completely stocked at all times. And the way it happens right now is that some human employee has to walk the entire
with the
store,
clipboard.
take a note of
Yeah.
with a clipboard, take a note of all the things, and that can take
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if we use our AI connected to the existing CCTV cameras, the moment it sees a product or a shelf area which is out of product, it'll send an immediate notification to the store manager, and they can take the appropriate action, depending on, whether it's a fast moving good, whether it is a slow moving good, do they have the people available? The reaction time is incredibly high, and the opportunity cost is next to zero.
Yeah.
Right. So making sure that the product is always available for any customer that walks into your store.
This is so fascinating because it's a problem that retail knows that they have, but I don't think many stores have ever considered technology to be the answer, right?
And they already have the infrastructure in place, right? I mean, there is no retail store in the world that doesn't have CCTV cameras inside their store, right? And now what we're doing is, costs that they had to incur because, okay, you have to have, for security reasons, you have to have a CCTV network inside your store. We're converting that sort of cost into a revenue generating asset.
That is awesome. Okay. How does that make that happen? How do you convert their standard CCTV cameras to, feature your technology? How does that happen in the background?
Yeah. So, what we do is, so we are part of NVIDIA's Inception program, which gives us access to some really cool edge-based hardware. And what we do is, these are specialized devices that are able to run AIs, complicated AIs. And what we do is, we plug this device into the CCTV network at the store, which means that our AI, like any other human employee, is working in that store. It's not in the cloud. It's not somewhere, outside the network. It's not outside the store. It's physically in the store. And that has two benefits. One is that it can connect directly to the CCTV cameras. And as soon as it connects to those cameras, it begins to comprehend what it sees. And the second, more from a sort of security requirement perspective, none of the video feed is leaving the store. So we're not sending, the video feed from each camera to the cloud for, interpretation by an AI and so on and so forth. So from a security perspective, it is completely local inside the physical limits of the store. And that's really important from our client's perspective because, again, from a GDPR perspective, you don't want sort of any potential data leakage to happen. You don't want the data to leave your private network. You don't want to capture any personal or personally identifiable information. And that's something that we are never going to do as a company. And yet you want to be able to get business insights from your network. And that's how we enable that to happen.
Okay. Fascinating, Pushkar. What kind of traction are you guys getting? Like, how many customers? Where are they at? Have you gone outside of Romania yet? Can you tell us more?
Yeah. So, Romania, we started with Romania. We've got a couple of customers, in Bucharest, in Oradea, those were the early adopters, and that really sort of helped us validate not just our technology, but the fact that there was a market need for our solution. And that was super important from our perspective. What happened then was we got the opportunity of actually going outside Romania. We are currently working with a municipality in the UK called Barnsley, where we are doing exactly the same thing, but for outdoor spaces. And that's really interesting because it was a very different sort of experience for us to work with a municipality that doesn't really have a profit motive in mind, but more of a lifestyle service for its citizens. And that's a very different sort of approach and focus that we saw from, the traditional commercial retailers and malls that we interacted with in Romania. And the plan is that, in 2023, we further sort of establish the footprint, not just in the UK, but obviously in Romania as well, because, it's our home base.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that you want to go into the UK. Any other big goals for 2023 that you're excited about?
No, consolidation, I think, is the key for us. What we'd like to do is we'd like to be in a very good position towards the end of the second half of this year to be able to raise our seed round. Because what we want to do is we want to use the base that we've got to really sort of go from a startup to a scale-up mode. We've seen that, this is the problems that we're solving is a problem that exists for every retailer on the planet, irrespective of which country they are in, right? So the potential market for us is huge. And we want to be able to grab that as quickly as possible.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got some rapid fire questions for you. When you hear the question, just respond with the first thing that comes to your head. First question for you. What is an unusual food or drink that you consume?
Belinga. And I've learned to treat it with a lot of respect because the first time I had Belinga it was homemade. So I had no idea about how strong it was. And I sort of felt it. I had it before breakfast, right? On an empty stomach. Yeah. And I felt it for the rest of the day. So Belinga is definitely something that, I would.
For those listening, Belinga is like the Romanian, I guess it's like the national drink, but most Romanians make it at home. Every Christmas, my wife's father comes with a bottle, and it's like one of those, it's just like a water bottle, but it's got Belinga in it, and it's strong as hell. Yeah. First time I had it, I thought,
it's strong as
hell. I haven't tasted anything this strong since tequila. It is really strong.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really strong.
Okay. Second question. What's the most interesting thing that you've done in the last 26 days?
Gone cycling downhill without using my brakes. So in Cluj is a hilly town, right? And we've got this hill, pretty steep descent coming into town. And I had a challenge with one of my friends, one of my cycling buddies, if we could do that downhill without using brakes. And it's pretty tricky because, it's a very sort of curvy road that comes into town from the top of the hill. And it's scary as hell. It's scary as hell. And I'll be honest, I cheated a little bit because, I had to use my brakes a little bit, but that was really fun. That was really fun.
Hey, at least potential investors know you've got an appetite for risk, right?
If they didn't know that already, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question. What is your greatest life accomplishment so far, Pushkar?
I think that's yet to come, to be honest. I think whatever I've managed to do, I won't entirely credit it to myself. I've been super lucky so far. That, I've interacted with some really smart people, right? I mean, throughout my career, and that sort of, I've been standing on the shoulders of giants, to be honest. And I think, that achievement is still to come. And I'm hoping it's going to be Aiva, to be honest.
All right. Well, listen, Pushkar, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure as well.
Where can people learn more about you and Eva?
At aiva.vision, or you can follow me on LinkedIn, Pushkar.Chatterji on LinkedIn.
All right. And I'll put links to the LinkedIn and his website in the show notes. So think about how inspired you feel right now about Pushkar's story. Imagine you had missed out on that. So if you haven't already, give that subscribe button a push. That way you are notified every time there is a new episode. But more importantly, that you don't miss out on stories like the one you heard right now. Now, before you go on with the rest of your day, I want you to hear something. You are awesome. Yes, you. Now, you might be saying, come on, Eric, you just had Pushkar, who's a rock star, crazy cyclist on the show, and he's built this AI startup that is very cool. And while that may be true, if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, a startup, whatever you want to call yourself, you are one of a very small percentage of human beings that have the courage and vision to create something new. You are taking an idea and making it a reality. And that's pretty amazing, which makes you awesome. All right. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you could give us a review and star rating. Also, don't forget to sign up for the ICL newsletter at innovatorscanlaugh.com, where you can get the bio and details of each guest. Thanks.